Great. So welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for coming along. This is day 3 of our Get Ready to Graduate series of events, aimed really at finalists to help in that final push for a graduate role if you've not already secured one. Today we have a session entitled Careers in the Northeast, and we want to just shout about the amazing opportunities that are available in the Northeast. And we've got some fantastic speakers here today who are going to talk to you on that topic and also tell you about the opportunities that they have available as well. So we've got speakers from Ezolo UK, Poptop UK and Verve Group. We were due to have someone from Carmel Teacher Training as well, who may pop in at some point, but they do have vacancies available as well. So do make sure that you have a look on our Instagram and Facebook pages, where we'll be sharing the opportunity to join. So without further ado, I'm going to make a start. So I'll stop sharing this. If I could just ask everybody who's not speaking just to be on mute, that would be great, so there's no feedback, and we'll make a start. So just go around and see. So Mike, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, yeah, I'm Mike. I'm from Ezolo UK. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to all of those of you who are just about to graduate, a big time in your lives. I know how important it is to you, and I know there's little butterfly nerves for both final exams and what's going to happen now. So totally get it, and feel free to just ask any questions you like, and we'll be up to it. So Ezolo, well, most of you, all of you will have seen websites, and website publishers have lots and lots and lots of problems. The first problem is just what are they going to write about? And that's their main problem. But as the internet's become more and more complex, it's become more and more difficult for website owners to keep pace and to be able to manage things like caching, be able to manage site speed, be able to manage, oh, how do we monetize this? Do we do subscriptions? Do we do adverts? All those sort of things that really are distractions from publishers creating great content. So this is where Ezolo comes in. Ezolo is an artificial machine learning platform, true machine learning, not just a set of algorithms. It's based on a model of a neural network, a bit like Data from Star Trek Next Generation, if you've seen that. And it's a self-learning platform. And what it does is it identifies the type of user that's visiting the website and then adapts the website to make that website more usable, more friendly, and encourages a greater stay time and a better interaction with the people using the website. This in turn leads to more money and leads to better Google search results. Well, that's great, but you're all thinking, well, I'm not a coder. Yeah, you don't need to be. That's the great thing about it. Website owners are people, and we want people that help us work with other people, and that's really where we're at. So it's not what we're offering in the Northeast is not necessarily so much technical roles, although obviously we're interested in people with technical backgrounds. It's people with people skills who want to stay in the Northeast, like I did. That's it. Ezolo UK. Thanks for listening.
Fab. Thank you so much, Mike, and I look forward to finding out a little bit more about your place in the Northeast and the kind of graduates that you're looking for. So thank you very much. Paige, next.
Hello, my name is Paige Patterson. I work for a Northeast-based startup company called Poptop. Poptop is a events planning marketplace, which means we provide a service which allows event planners or normal people like you guys to plan any sort of event. That can be a wedding, it can be a fundraising event, it can be a birthday party, it can be a kid's birthday party, basically anything you can think of celebrating, we're going to help you do it. You can book all sorts of things with us, from catering to photography to entertainment, the kind of traditional stuff that you might associate with like a wedding, or the weird and wonderful stuff. We love that as well. Hypnotists and snake charmers and gold-plated dance floors. And we basically provide the platform to bring those two things together. which is really exciting because it means that we've kind of got two main aspects to the company, which is the client side, and we also have the B2B side as well, because we work really personally with, at the minute, it's about 12,000 suppliers all over the UK, which obviously, you know, we've built that up over the last few years. So yeah, there's a lot going on. We're kind of transitioning through kind of startup to SME phase, which really just kind of means growth for us, growth all the time. And yeah, there's always something exciting going on. There's always plenty to be done. And just to kind of round it off, I know we'll get into a lot more detail, but you know, one of the best things about working for a small company with big ambition is that the potential for individual growth is also huge. There's always going to be some new thing to learn or some new direction to go in, and you never kind of know where you're going to be in 6 months or a year or 3 years, in a good way, that is. So yeah, I'm really excited to chat and answer some questions and just kind of get involved in the conversation.
Brilliant, thank you. I bet you'll get a load of end of lockdown party requests.
Yeah, that's the idea, yeah.
I might
Definitely.
do one myself, actually. Brilliant. I like the idea of it.
You know where we are, so just give me a shout.
Great, thanks very much, Paige. And last but not least, Natalie.
Hi everybody, I'm Natalie Bell and I work at the Verve Group. Similarly, actually, to Mike and Paige just there, I'm sensing a theme and there's a little bit of technology in there. However, the Verve Group is a group. It's in the name, and it's a group of support services for financial advisors and planners. So we work within the world of financial services, which I beg and plead you don't immediately switch off and start snoring that the world of finance is boring, because actually that's our mission in terms of just breaking down those barriers and making financial services much more attractive and a career choice for people who, like you, would be leaving university or potentially even college before you get to university, and just, yeah, making it a active career choice. There's 3 individual businesses within the group. Parasols, which is a paraplanning service, which isn't extreme sports. If you've never heard of a paraplanner, it's essentially the person who's responsible for all of the research and technical analysis and report writing on the kind of side of financial advice. We have Apricity compliance, and that is keeping financial advice firms compliant in the world of the FCA, which is the regulation body within financial services, and the Art of Finance, which actually is a training solution, and it's training people and upskilling them, and as Paige was saying, around kind of encouraging that personal and professional growth in people who are building careers within financial services. So that's the 3 individual businesses. Verve Group is the umbrella, also delivers its own services, which we call Vervices, which, because, you know, we love a pun. And we also have a charitable foundation in there as well, just for good measure, because what group is complete without a charitable arm too? And I mentioned earlier about kind of that constant thread around technology being a theme, because actually that has absolutely is one of our key business strategies and goals, and actually being able to use, develop, build kind of technological solutions in the world of business, and in our case within financial services. So it's a term that's coined fintech. For anybody who's not heard of it, it's essentially is technology within finance. Apricity's business model is based around tech. So we're incredibly proud of the bespoke software that we build and create. And Mike, you chatting there around coding and stuff, I've got a team of developers down the corridor there who I'm sure would talk tech and APIs and all of that type of stuff till they were blue in the eyes. So yeah, but it's a constant theme throughout all of it. And if I'm honest, in the last 12 months as we hit pandemic, it's been really interesting to see the difference in the businesses, the ones that relied most on tech and were already embedded within the business, continued to operate and barely take any hit. The ones where there was more personal manpower, we've seen the kind of the greatest drop in kind of productivity, I suppose, in that respect. So I am here to talk about our mission piece, to be honest, which is very much around trying to demystify the world of financial services and the careers that are available. Too many people believe you need to be good at maths, that you need to be you know, a middle-aged man and prepared to wear a suit and carry a briefcase and all of that type of stuff. And actually, I'm none of them. And, you know, financial advice is only one role that gets talked about within financial services. And actually, there's a million one. I'm sat here as a creative, doing marketing, building cultures, workplace cultures. It just happens to be in the world of financial services. So that's a little bit about me.
Brilliant, thank you. That was great to hear from all three of you. And like you say, I think there is a lot of crossover, despite the fact you do quite different things. There is a lot of crossover, and so it'll be really interesting to hear the threads and the sort of the similarities in recruitment that your companies look for. So I suppose, as you know, this session is about staying in the Northeast and why, you know, you don't have to move to London to get your dream graduate job. You know, so many people do believe that you have to do that, and you absolutely don't. So I suppose, first of all, from a personal point of view or from a business point of view, whichever you like, or you can go with both, what are the benefits of staying in the Northeast? Why would one of our graduates want to stay in the Northeast? And I'll open that up to any of our speakers to go first.
I think for me, so I did a bit of a backwards thing. So I actually went to uni really close to London, and then I came back up here. I'm from here originally, moved away, moved around, and then now I'm here again. And for me, Newcastle in particular is a really good balance of everything that you need or that you might want to get from living or working in a big city, without the kind of, I mean, I love London, don't get me wrong, and I do at some point plan to do like a really intense sort of year or 2 years of like proper London city living. But I think when you're kind of fresh out of uni and don't have a proper plan of what you want to do yet, it's a very daunting thought to live in the city unless you've got some kind of really good connections to get in somewhere, or you know, you've got family there or something. I think it's a huge thing to take on straight out of uni to go to London, and it's perhaps for me, in my eyes, it's a temporary place to be, you know, especially when you're talking about kind of London city. It's not really somewhere that people go to kind of settle down, and you know, it's an experience. And you know, obviously if you want to go get that experience, that's great, but if you, like I did, want something that does a bit of that but it offers a bit more stability, I think that Newcastle is such a nice balance. You know, you've got the nightlife, you've got the culture, and there's so much to explore. It might not be the biggest city in the UK, but there's so much going on. So yeah, that's the kind of main point that comes to me. And apart from anything else, the more north you go in the country, the nicer the people are, obviously. So this is kind of the peak point before you cross the border. So so yeah, and I'm from Newcastle, but I never had the intention to come back. So I don't know if that's more evidence that, you know, it's possible to do, because I was really quite dead set on moving and never returning, but here I am. So so yeah, I think it's definitely the balance of getting everything you want to get from a sort of exciting city life without having the terror of London city there, really. Yeah.
Great. So for you, it's a bit more of a bit of a lifestyle kind of point. You moved back because of you wanted the lifestyle that comes with living in the Northeast, and you mentioned the people and the activities, but the fact that it's not absolutely manic constantly.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't take you 3 hours to get home, which is always lovely from work. So great. Mike and Natalie, do you want to add anything to why the Northeast for you?
Yeah, actually, I was just going to share that there is somebody in our office who we once upon a time we had a London office, and the reason we had a London office is because we thought that would attract the best talent. And I'm saying this kind of from an employer's perspective and perhaps an employer's naivety in the early days. Paraplanners in particular are incredibly hard to find. They're very much in demand. More so 12 years ago when we started Parasols. So we thought taking our business to where the paraplanners were rather than expecting them to come to us was, you know, the magic solution. The reality was it wasn't, and we were looking for talent, and we were having to build that talent and grow that talent because that's our ethos, and we love that. However, it just meant they were just so much more expensive for not a great deal of experience, and it just become a barrier. However, that said, that very first time we did our grad program, we took on an intake grant. It was probably about 9 years ago. He was looking to get a foot in the door in finance. He was from North London, so we did attract him. And I'm pleased to say that actually at some point we weren't getting the success other than as one, we love Grant and we still have him today. It wasn't getting the volume that we needed. So it was a real kind of crunch point for us. And we decided we wouldn't take our business as great as we were to London, but we will try Leeds because it's the city thing. So we went to Leeds, and at the time the CEO was kind of local to that area. Again, maybe the city life will attract some great talent. And the reality was, it didn't happen. It didn't happen like that because actually the good people are everywhere at the moment. And we just felt like we were, you know, yeah, maybe had our blinkers on, and we were actually disengaging the people who didn't want to be in the city, in the city life. And actually I'm one of those people. So our kind of home roots is Darlington. So we're in the northeast. And the Grant, who I mentioned earlier, so he literally joined us. He was in London. He moved up to Leeds. He wasn't prepared to move to Darlington. I'll be honest with that. However, he is in Newcastle and Gateshead, and he's never going back. Absolutely is not going back. Newcastle for him, or Gateshead, I think it is, wherever he lives, which side of the river. It gives him everything that he needs, and isn't, you know, it's a good quality of life in terms of the work-life balance lifestyle he's got, and it's much more affordable. And actually being able to take away the financial pressures to really be able to enjoy life here in the city is great. Yeah, so just realised the other Natalie's also from Darlington, so shout out to Darlo. But yeah, so kind of that's his experience and our experience as an employer. We thought, oh yeah, let's go to the big city because that's where the good people are. And the reality is it isn't. And the burnt out and the philosophy at the Verve Group is very much about that work-life balance. And I mentioned earlier my role as culture, and the culture that we've created here being a positive one. It's just a much harder balance to get in London when you're part of the rat race. So it was, yeah, what we want to encourage, really.
I think that's really a really interesting insight. You know, part of this session is to try and encourage students and graduates to stay in the Northeast because, you know, it's full of so many positive things, but actually it's really interesting to hear it from a recruiter's point of view that you've learned those lessons as an employer as well. So, you know, employers are starting to understand that people don't want to sit on a tube. They don't want to sit on a bus for 2 hours to go, you know, round the corner. You mentioned there someone who lives in Newcastle or Gateshead, travels to Darlington, and it only takes about 25 minutes on the train. So, you know, you can't get nearly as far in a huge city like London. You can't get nearly as far as you can in the Northeast. It's really straightforward to get to some of these places in Darlington, Durham, Middlesbrough, Sunderland, Newcastle. It's quite close together from a transport point of view, if that makes sense, compared to some of the bigger cities and the bigger regions. Mike, do you have any input into why the Northeast? Oh, you're on mute.
I do. Evie, I'm very aware that you're sat there and you haven't had a chance to speak yet, but I'll just blast out my little thing, and then obviously Thomas, I'll bring you in. Yeah, so I'm going to turn the conversation around a little bit and talk about the opportunities for graduates rather than, I mean, I don't rate London at all. I just don't. I was born near Darlington. I grew up in Manchester, and my dad was in the Royal Air Force, traveled all around the world. I've been to London a few times. We've got an office in London. I just don't rate it. I don't even think about it as an option, really. And when I left the Royal Navy after 30 years, and so you're probably thinking, why is this white middle-aged guy trying to tell me about this stuff? Well, my wife's mother lives up here. We lost her father sadly, and she said, "Would you come up to Newcastle when we leave the Navy and, be there to support my mum?" I said, "Well, yeah, of course." I said, "I've got a Navy pension. I don't need an opportunity. I'll be fine. But we'll go and look after mum. It's about time she figured in the picture." Well, I got up here 9 years ago, and I couldn't believe the fizz around this place, especially in tech. Now, people say, "Oh, tech, what does tech mean?" Well, tech is as broad from, as Natalie says, from fintech to platforms to coding to, it gets everywhere. But it's all about people too. And when I first got up here, I started working with Ezolo, just me and the dog above a smelly fish and chip shop in North Shields. And now there's 30 of us in a Gateshead office in Northern Design Centre. I'm working with amazing people. I've met Natalie and Paige today. Thank you. It's great. And there's so many people out here doing amazing stuff. And we're all desperate for really high quality graduates. So all I say is it's not a question of what's better about London in terms of lifestyle or it's about what are the opportunities here. The opportunities are dense and they're rich pickings and they're everywhere here. And I've been lucky and privileged to be on the board of a few startups and the incubator stages, and the innovation and the brilliant minds that come out of the universities around here and the desire to succeed is astonishing. And I wouldn't want to hire anywhere else, frankly. So a bit of a different perspective. I love it. I'm a fan. Apart from the city, I'm a Man City fan. I will go to St James's because they're awesome too.
Brilliant. I'm going to get you as the poster boy for our campaign about keeping people in the Northeast. Great. Thank you. That's been great. Evie, can I just check you? Are you a student or are you a speaker?
Yes, hi there. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was meant to come on camera or not, but I know when I'm in a Zoom for seminars and lectures, I like to show my face and say hello, but I'm not a speaker, so I wasn't sure if I was a bit fish out of water here.
Absolutely fine. Thank you. It was just that I didn't want to leave you out if you were one of our speakers because we're expecting someone else. So just wondered if it was you, but feel free to, thank you for putting your camera on it and anyone who can and wants to, please feel free and make a discussion out of it. But I think you'll agree that they've sold the Northeast already. We could finish it now, really. I've got a few more questions, but I feel like we could finish it now. But if you've got any questions at any point, please just feel free to throw them out there. And the same goes for Natalie and Louise as well. So great. Yeah, I think we've covered there the lifestyle of living in the Northeast, the opportunity. And I think, tech, like you say, Mike, tech is huge in the Northeast. And I think one of the things that I want to kind of get your thoughts on, all three panelists, is around what tech is, but also what different types of roles within tech, because we could have students sitting here from an arts background or from a scientific background, science and tech I suppose, but basically from a background that wouldn't ordinarily think to go into the tech sector. So what kind of roles do you think you could get into from a tech perspective for a student who isn't from a tech background? Any one of you can go.
Yeah, I'll just jump in again. So I'm going to get into that, but also, Mike, I'm actually based in Baltimore House, so I'm literally like, you're over there and I'm here, so hi. But yeah, so I don't come from a tech background myself. I've always considered myself to be a pretty kind of tech savvy gal, like I'm sure most people would, coming out of uni nowadays, and it wasn't something that I was particularly looking to go into. I come from an events and a management background, which is how I got into Poptop, with it being an events company. But I think with tech, there's just so much scope in general. It's just huge, because so think about someone like Mike, whose company is very much techie. Do you know what I mean? It's fully at the core of what they do and the service that they offer. Whereas with us, tech is at the core of what we do, but not necessarily at the forefront of what we're offering. But the thing that really, we will always describe ourselves as a tech company and an innovative tech company, because everything is done in-house for us. Whether it's the tech side of things or not, we have a really talented team of in-house developers, which isn't necessarily the norm. It's been like that from the very beginning, and I think a lot of small companies might outsource that for the sake of, it's quite hard to find the talent and they're expensive and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But that is one of the things that we absolutely pride ourselves on. So for me, for example, I've come in to the company looking for, you know, events management. I've got a customer service background, and the job that I came into absolutely encompassed that. And I have absolutely fallen in love with what the company has to offer in terms of tech, because it's always been an interest to me, and to have it so kind of readily available for me to see and learn from was amazing. And now I'm at the point where my job is very heavily involved with product development, which is awesome, by the way. But it's given me a gateway to kind of start to look at that stuff without having to. I can't code. I'm not by any means a developer, or I'm not even going to go in that direction, but I'm sort of bridging the gap between developing the product in a techie way and seeing what the clients need and want. So I'm sort of like bridging the gap between those two areas, which is just awesome. It's so interesting, and it's never something that I ever would have necessarily gone looking for, or even maybe probably not even applied for a job, you know, coming out of uni. And that's where I've ended up. And it's like I was saying earlier, it's been a really surprising but amazing way for me to develop as well. And also, just to talk about tech and the Northeast, when Poptop started, so our two co-founders, we've got CEO and CTO, they are both from Ukraine. And they started Poptop, and in the first 6 months, they knew that it was the UK market that they wanted to target. So they looked to come over and see kind of what was what. And obviously, like a lot of people do, they think, okay, London, but that's a bit, I don't know if we can do that yet. You know, we're still trying to like drum up some money and get things going. And at the time, so this is about 6 years ago, at the time, the Northeast were really pushing to kind of achieve, not to say that it's all done and dusted, but to achieve the kind of reputation that it has now, that the Northeast is a really cool up and coming place for tech companies to start up or settle down or whatever it is. We are an option too. Yes, we're up here and it looks like everything else is going on down here, but that's not the case. So they were able to secure a bit of grant money, which is obviously amazing for a very early day startup. And although that decision may have been at the time wasn't about the Northeast, it was just about, you know, we need to get into the UK market and we need to kind of start up somewhere. It's become, again, like a big part of us, a big part of our kind of brand. We work all over the UK, and we may well expand into, you know, different cities, but the Northeast is like kind of, not to sound gushy, but it's kind of where the heart of the company is at. And the plan is to always have this kind of HQ here now, regardless of how big. And, you know, we have big plans. Right. So to say that we're going to have a HQ in just over the bridge in Newcastle is I think pretty cool.
Well, we'll hold you to it. I'll be checking up on you, making sure that you stick to your promise. Great. Oh no, that's really interesting. And what was your degree background? Sorry, if you don't mind me asking.
So I did music and live events management. And what I did as well, I'm sorry, I do babble a lot, so just tell me to shut up. But I've always, on reflection, I've always thought of this as a maybe a good tip for people coming out of uni, because I went to uni a little bit later, and I did as much as I could at uni because I thought, well, this is the chance. I'm getting like given some money and go and study, and I really tried to make the most out of the situation. And I did loads of internships and placement bits and bobs, and I did loads of really hands-on event work. So I worked for like 9 months with Festival Republic. So I did like huge, Leeds, Reading, Proms in the Park, which as an events graduate, you think, yeah, that's what you want to be doing. And it is, but coming out of uni, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to go into, but I had a pretty good list of things that I didn't want to do. And I think a lot of people come out of uni thinking, oh crap, like I don't know what I want to do. And I don't think that's the goal. I think if you have a pretty good idea of the things that you don't want to end up in, or you don't want to start off with, I think that's a good enough place to start, because I felt like I had really high standards. Well, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to live on a field for 9 months because I've done that, and I've worked in customer service forever, so I don't want to work weekends anymore. And although it felt a bit like, do I have the right to have these demands, it actually worked out amazing for me, because one day I saw a job role for an events-based position that was based in an office and Monday to Friday, and I was like, I didn't know that existed, but it was so on my radar because I'd already outlined that as the rough kind of situation I wanted to go into.
I think that's a great piece of advice. Don't just go for a job because you think, oh, well, I can't get anything. I can't get exactly what you might not get exactly what you want, but there'll be some sort of deal breakers, if you like. And it's a Paige, which I would be very similar. I don't want to work weekends. I want my weekends to myself. I don't want to go to work on weekend. So a job that it might sound like a brilliant job, but if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to. So, you're in a position of, it's your decision kind of thing. Obviously you've got to weigh it all up of the pros and the cons, but set yourself some boundaries as well and say, no, I won't flex on that, if you like. Great, thank you, Paige. Natalie, what about
I was going to say, I was just going to jump in only because what Paige said resonated with me too. And actually, believe it or not, my background is events. And it's really funny. So, and also, Evie, I've spotted your question in the chat. You're doing English literature. And actually, my degree was English language. And I don't want to be that person who's, 11 a reef, but I feel like I did English. It was business with English, but did English with my degree. I went into the world of event planning and event management, did the agency life thing, worked on, great, big, glitzy corporate events that I thought I wanted to do. And don't get me wrong, I was young and I had no responsibilities, and it was great. It was essentially my social life, but for free. But I just knew when I was moving on from that, it wasn't something that I was wanting to do forever. So I moved on from there into an engagement agency, so actually another agency, and doing events and generally marketing, introduced to the more so into the world of like broader marketing as opposed to just events being part of a marketing mix. And developed my marketing skills there, and obviously the background in language, just generally being quite a wordy person and lover of all linguistics and stuff, obviously really helped in terms of storytelling and building narratives, which was then got developed on. And because it was an engagement agency, and I was working a lot within the NHS at the time, I was building using marketing and comms as a way of developing like leadership programs and engaging staff, obviously through the medium of marketing and internal comms, really. So that kind of took me from events into marketing, where I started to get a little bit of info on building websites and stuff. That was kind of my tech knowledge at that point. And apps were just starting to become a bit more popular as I left that business. And then I came here kind of 4.5 years ago, almost 5. And actually our CEO is actually is my good friend from university. We met at uni, and she had this business, was desperate at the time. It was only parasols. She was desperate to scale it. She had ideas for other businesses, which we now know as Apricity and the Art of Finance. And I'm in a role which is culture, staff, internal comms and stuff, but actually the baseline of all of that is that we're not there yet, but certainly the plans that we've got at the minute, we're ultimately going to become a tech company, and that's come from, you know, a degree in English and that kind of that journey. And I'd just kind of say my advice to you, Evie, is, you know, don't get too hung up on your degree as such. Like, it's not a barrier. If anything, like tech, as Mike referenced earlier, like exists in so many different you know, aspects, that there's absolutely skills in your degree and your motivation that probably is going to, you would end up in financial services, which just happens to be a tech company. And I think there is an element of, it's the way the world's going, and there's probably always going to be an element of tech. But I did make some, because I'm a bit of a geek and because I love words. I had made some notes for your original question, Tom, which was around almost those different roles that are available in tech. And just to kind of sum up in that, in terms of here at the Verve Group, immediately I'm sat here and thinking there's a department of developers, so in-house developers that we've got here, which is the, you know, the very obvious one in terms of tech. We have sat in our marketing department, so girl in my team, she's a digital designer, so she's from a UX perspective and UI, and she obviously sits within the marketing, she bridges basically the marketing team and the dev team, because she's either a graphic designer for what we need as marketing, or she's developing wireframes and working with the tech team. So that's another role. And we've got another girl in the team who started out as a financial administrator in Parasols, has grown and has progressed, and over the last probably 6 years, she's now in a business analyst role. So actually she's doing like QA duties. She sits within dev now. She's just been transitioned, and she sits kind of within the overall Verve Group umbrella, working with dev. And she's the person who translates our strategy and our business goals, but in a very operationally minded. So she's sat and she's whipping devs, and she's creating tickets, and she's making sure the sprints are delivered on time and stuff like that. So kind of just very quickly, there's 3 roles, and they're just the obvious ones.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Natalie. I mean, you know, I think people think of tech as being some kind of almost a castle on the hill, and it's just not. It's the village we all live in. We're all, you know, tech companies are just companies, and companies are just people, right? And you know, the platform upon which the business is delivered, it can be a technical platform, and it does need developers. And our developers live in California. We've got our company's 200 people strong now, but they're not very good at talking to people on the whole. Generally speaking, they're very focused, very logical, amazing intellects, and normally quite good fun on a night out. But the point is that they are not great at talking to customers. I won't let any of my tech people talk to my customers. There's just no way. So we've got, you know, we've got customer service people, we've got business development and business analysts in the same role, which is really exciting. We've got customer success teams. We've got people that are moving from, we've got corporate sustainability and corporate responsibility roles now. And the nice thing about, I think, tech is that the tech company environment is that I come from a military background, and you know, I'm very used to hierarchy, and I used to command warships. So, you know, very used to people standing up when I come in a room. That is not happening in a tech company, right? I mean, you know, people talk to you straight and they give it to you straight, and we practice self-organization. We have a hierarchy-less organization. That doesn't mean there are no hierarchy. It means there is less hierarchy. So we still have strategy, we still have guidance, we still have people helping people to move where they need to be, and to give, there's a little bit of leadership there. But anyone in our company can talk to the CEO direct. Anyone can talk. If you've got a problem with something that's going on with your publisher, your customer, you can go to the ad tester team, or you can go to the caching team, and it's amazing. And you know, what I've really found exciting about working with young people, and most of my team of graduates. I'm like the old uncle in the office, like they'll feel a bit sorry for me. But it's really exciting because they all come in with fresh ideas. And if you go into a big corporate job, those fresh ideas get crushed because you have to conform with policies and regulations and guidance and all that kind of stuff. When we want people that don't want to do that, that actually want to bring their ideas and breathe life into new ideas and challenge the way that things are being done. And that's why, that's why I say it keeps me young, because these kids, so since I shouldn't call them kids because they're young adults and stuff, but they've done enough to keep me on my toes. I tell you, they are a really incredible bunch of people. And that's what I say, that's what I love about tech as a company, but don't think of it as a castle on the hill. It's not. It's just a company, and we work with people, and our customers are people, and that's it.
You just happen to use tech. That's the thing, isn't it? Sorry, I really liked what you were saying, Mike. I felt really like energized by what you were saying then, in terms of that whole, going into a big company and ideas getting quashed, because you're right, like actually you need people to disrupt, and Apricity more so, we feel it, because it is the world of compliance, it's that dirty C word within the world of financial services, and it's scary, but we're trying to shift mindsets, which, don't get me wrong, is like turning a tank. It's really, really hard. But we're doing that, just happens to be through technology, and being able to find somebody who is, knows compliance, or certainly knows financial compliance, and also is Verve, as in the people and the personality and stuff, is really, really hard to find. And it's why we use our grad scheme to find those people, because our view is that if they've got the compliance experience, then they're usually a tick box mentality, and they're the people we don't want, because actually that's not the Apricity mission. So in terms of getting people through our graduate program, is because actually we'll teach you everything you need to know about compliance. Like, that's the easy stuff. It's the person that we need, like the skills, the experience, the knowledge. Like, give that to us. We've got it. We'll share it with you. So yeah, it is. It's a funny old one. And I've noticed a couple of chats there, funnily, that you're all studying language or modern languages. And there is somebody, interestingly, in compliance. She started in our February cohort of the grad scheme. She studied French, and I don't know whether it's a plant or what, but she, and she's Darlington based, but she was interested most in compliance, as opposed to paraplanning or the exam trainer role that we had out. She was interested in compliance because ultimately the role relates, it kind of resonates with that translation. You are reading FCA policies, you're updated on guidance and stuff, but actually we're not regurgitating that from Apricity, because it means absolutely bot all to anybody. We need somebody who reads it, who understands it, who can write like us, who can give it the Verve effect, the Apricity effect. So essentially she's translating, but she's English to better English, for want of a better analogy.
That's brilliant. You've all kind of just moved into the question that I was going to ask next. So Paige, if I ask the question, I was going to come to you first, but if my question isn't what you want to say what you want to say, and then answer my question, if that's all right. So I think because we're just running out of time, believe it or not, I could do this for another 2 hours, but I kind of want to get to a little bit of nitty gritty. So I think I'm right in saying that you're all SMEs, or you're all kind of smaller companies. So there's a two-part to my question, really. The first part is, what are the great benefits for one of our graduates to work at an SME compared to a corporate? And Mike, you've already kind of touched upon that. And B, what kind of attributes are you looking for our graduates to put across in their applications, in their interviews, to be successful in your companies? And I have a strong feeling they're going to be very similar between all three, which is great, because hopefully that means that it'll open up the opportunities. So Paige, feel free to answer whatever you wanted, but yeah, if you could also touch on that would be brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's pretty similar. It's kind of just going off, obviously a few comments have come through. In terms of recruitment, I mean, it's not like the main focus of my job, but I love doing it because I've been on the other side of the situation, you know, hundreds and hundreds of times. And my main approach to recruitment is, apart from putting aside for a second, you know, what kind of candidate I'm looking for, is to just make it a nicer, better process for everyone involved. There's nothing worse than an interview being horrible for the sake of it being horrible. Like, there's no need to do that. For me, my main goal when hiring someone and when I'm sat in front of someone in an interview is to get them as quickly as possible to be their most authentic self, rather than who they think I want to see, because that's not who I'm looking to. I'm not looking to hire the you know, very smart, doesn't want to say any jokes kind of interview version of them. I want to see who they really are. And that also kind of comes through when looking at applications. So if it's for a grad role in particular, I don't really even mind what the degree is at all, like in the slightest. For me, having a degree shows a level of discipline, which I do think is important, because I've done it myself. You know, it wasn't the easiest thing in the world, but you get there and you get through it, and then that's a great achievement that you've. The lights have gone off here, sorry. So for me, and we've hired some people that weren't graduates or didn't go all the way through, and to be honest, like, I can kind of see the difference between someone who has the self-discipline and the commitment to whatever the project is to go all the way through. So a degree is great. What that degree is in doesn't really bother me as much. Under my team directly, I've got a modern languages student from Newcastle and a business crossed with Spanish student also from Newcastle. They both came to us through internships. They've both been with us for about probably a year and a half, coming up to 2 years, which, bearing in mind we have had a year-long pandemic, they're both in different roles to the entry-level role they came in on, which I think is a testament to our kind of mission to grow talent from within. And you know, languages is handy. We have big plans. We plan to expand. We might need that down the line. So that is a handy one. But yeah, it's definitely not about the type of degree for me, for us. A massive part of it is definitely what Natalie was saying. We will teach you what you need to know. If it's a customer services role, in particular, customer service background, I'm quite big on that because I have loads of experience with customer service, and I do think, you know, when you've been around the block a few times, you can go into any situation. But generally speaking, for me, it's all about the person and the personality fit, because as a small company, or even if you're not a small company, it's just a small team, that makes all the difference. To be honest, that's just as important to me as everything else, if not more, because it just doesn't fit with our team and our brand to have someone that isn't going to literally kind of fit right in, you know, have some good crack. We all get along real well, and it makes it easier to then communicate and go on to do the job. So yeah, that's definitely my kind of personal main outlook to recruitment. So, you know, you guys here, basically from what you said, like, have nothing to worry about. You just definitely take your authentic self into any recruitment process, because I think that's more and more important to a lot of companies now.
A great piece of advice. Great piece of advice. And I think you're right. Companies they're getting more on board with that. You know, it's not just about the old-fashioned 3 people behind a table looking at one person in front, and you know, all those kinds of things. That's not how work's done. So it'd be authentic to then recruit people in a completely different way to how you're actually going to work. So I think that's really interesting. Thank you. We are going to run over a little bit, but I don't mind as long as you all don't, because I think it's a really valuable conversation. But do feel free to drop out if you want. But I do want you to have the opportunity to ask some questions as well, if you do want to, Natalie, Louise, and Evie. So Natalie, Verve Group. Natalie, do you want to come in on that? question as well?
Absolutely, I will. And I will keep it brief because I'd like to hear you more questions from Natalie, Louise and Evie too. But to be honest, I'm sat listening to Paige and I feel like we work for the same company and we absolutely don't. But it's exactly the same. So actually my role I mentioned earlier, Director of Culture, Talent Management, the process is my baby, developing people. So it's how we attract them, how we select them, how we continue to retain them, and that whole staff journey, that staff experience is my absolute greatest passion. So yes, absolutely, we're all about bringing authentic self. We take a values-based approach to our recruitment, so it's absolutely not about the degree. The strap line on the market, the website is very much like, we don't care what your degree's in. We've got zoology, we've got fine art, we've got English, we've got, you know, 1 or 2 finance-related ones, but broadly speaking, not a great deal. And it's about them and the culture, like I said, that I'm incredibly passionate about. You know, I'm territorial with it. I've grafted my ass off to build the culture that we're also proud of over the last, 5 years, and we protect it, but it's not just my place to protect, it's everybody's. So that's why we take that values-based approach. And as part of the process, the application process, yes, we'll be asking for a CV. We ask, which essentially forms the cover letter, why you and why us? And that's very much from the outset to make the applicant feel, we're on a level playing field here, that I am very, very a keen advocate for people to feel like, it's not a them and us. I'm not the employer and you're not the employee. Like, work is absolutely a two-way partnership. And I need to know that you are the right person for us. And I want you to tell me why you think you're the right person for us. But absolutely, you need to know that we're the right person for you, because, my earlier comment around spending more time with colleagues than I do with my husband is true. And we need to just make sure that you're going to be happy here. And if you are somebody who is looking for, governance, set structure, somebody who's like, on the ball in terms of like frameworks and infrastructure and all of that type of stuff, then we're probably not going to be that company. And I make that very clear at the beginning. We are 100 miles an hour. We're incredibly ambitious. We're incredibly bold. There's over 50 of us, and it's great because we've achieved great things in a short space of time. We're on an accelerated growth program at the minute. And those who enjoy like the pace, that who get excited at the opportunity that it brings, who are happy with that whole flexibility and, being open-minded to see where that personal and professional growth can take them, rather than saying you're coming in at this level, by 6 months you'll be here, and then by next year you'll be here, because actually it doesn't work like that. We're forever growing. So I always like to get that out at the kind of the outset, because there's no point them trying to impress me if we're not right for them, and then nobody ends up happy. So yes, authentic self, big on personality. We actually do a personality quiz at the beginning. It's like asking superhero names and what your superpower would be, just to let people settle into it. We do a trial day after an interview, and that's just, again, a chance for people to come in and not necessarily test people's skills, but to experience the office. They might suddenly sit there on a Monday morning of the first day of a job and have a dog running around and they don't like dogs, or we're playing music too loud, whatever it may be. Like, actually, I'd hate anybody to arrive on that first day and think, what the hell have I let myself in for here? And yeah, obviously the values are continued throughout all of our working practices, which I don't need to go into, but authentic self, chemistry fit, two-way adult kind of approach would be my 3 summary points.
Brilliant.
Well, that's really important, Natalie, and I think that you brought something up there that, I agree with 100% with what both of you have said. Absolutely, it's about bringing your whole self, to work. We want you to feel part of us, become part of us, not in a kind of weird way, but just like, you feel comfortable. This is, I want to go to work. This is amazing. I've got a great team I'm working with. I feel valued, and remember that you have the power as graduates. You are interviewing us just like we're interviewing you. And, you know, I always think it's a bit like a blind date in a way, because you don't know whether that fit's going to be right. And, you know, you could come in and you think, oh, it's just not for me. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. And I love it when people say, oh, you know what, this isn't really what I thought, you know. But I love it more when they go, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm really excited about what you just said there, right? You know, and curiosity, you know, asking questions about what we do, understanding a little bit about the business and, you know, what you might be able to, you know, how you could sort of shake us up a little bit. You know, have you thought about this? And we don't think of that as arrogant or aggressive. It's like, that's really cool. We'd love to see a bit of fizz. And that doesn't mean that introverts shouldn't apply, because some of the introverts are the most amazing intellects and quite often the funniest people I've ever met with. They come up with the best interactions. So, you know, don't be put off because you think, oh, these tech companies, they all seem a bit like, oh, they've got double-decker buses with swings on them and slides coming down, and you have to do your typing inside a bubble bath or something like that. It's not like that. Well, it's a bit like that, but you know, I mean, it's just get excited about something. Tell us what you're excited about. What really makes you excited? What are you passionate about? And bring passion to your interview, because, you know, that's, if you've got a passion about something, you're likely to get passionate about new stuff and get excited about the opportunities that come around. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say I can't believe it. I mean, I'm pretty old, right? And I still get excited about going to work every day. It's fantastic. So be excited, be passionate, love life.
That is a brilliant note to end my line of questioning. That's been super, and kind of moved away from just the Northeast, but I think that's just showing you how great working for an SME in the Northeast would be for you. And also, you know, going into a little bit more detail about tech, and, you know, if you're not from a tech background, how you might get into that. So we've managed to cover probably 5 panel events there in little under an hour. So great going, everyone. That was brilliant. Evie, Natalie and Louise, do you have any questions for these guys while they're here? You've got a captive audience. Feel free to speak. Just remember that you are on a recording, so if you do want to speak, you will be on the recording, but that's not a problem to me. It's up to you. Or pop it in the chat if you have any. If you don't worry. But we'll give you a moment just to type away if you've got any.
I don't have any questions. Just sorry again for the lack of camera. I had an incident with a cup of coffee in my laptop, which is not great. But yeah, I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say it's been really inspiring to hear about. I definitely want to stay in the Northeast, and to hear that there's even, you know, a financial services group in Darlington just blows my mind a little bit. So definitely opened my eyes. And yeah, quite inspiring to know that as a humanities or an art student, there's still those opportunities. So thank you for that. That's really useful.
Great, thank you, Natalie.
Sorry, can I just jump in? I've actually got a class that started at 3, so I'm probably gonna have to go. But
okay.
If you wouldn't mind, just I mean, I know you've all kind of mentioned it's obviously about, you know, finding the right person, not necessarily the degree and stuff, which is really encouraging. I was just wondering, is there any kind of particular experience you're looking for? Because I look at my CV and I've like I said in the chat earlier, you know, I've done languages and translation, so I've worked abroad and I've got translation work experience, but I don't have any kind of experience in any of the areas you've talked about so far. Is that kind of, I don't know, I feel like if I just look at my CV and then I'm like, that's not going to get me any further. Kind of what are you looking for in terms of a CV and work experience and stuff like that?
I very quickly, so you can get to your class. Personally, my most favourite part of reviewing job applications is the personal statement. And yes, you may not have experience, but you have you. And just go hell for leather on that, and just tell us why you will add all of the value that you can bring to any business.
And we know you're an individual. You don't have to tell us you're an individual. But yeah, tell us what you're excited about. You know, I mean, we know you don't have work experience, but you do have something in here. you do have something in here. So what is it that you want to bring out? What is it? Where do you want to be? And to a certain extent, the personal statement is about who you want to be as much as who you are. So.
Yeah. For me, I think I'd say, I mean, most of the grad roles that we have done in the past and plan to offer in the future do, the sort of foot in the door with us is through working with clients, so client support. So it is a surface level kind of customer service job. And, you know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think if it means that you're getting into a company like ours and then can go on to do other things, then it's just absolutely brilliant. And I think, I don't know if I'm being a bit stereotypical here, but languages background for me is very, obviously it's all about communication. The type of people that I've met with a languages background tend to like talking and like meeting with people. And for me, when it's those kinds of roles, those are the kinds of qualities that I'm looking for. And I also wouldn't rule out any previous work experience that you might have, even if you think that it doesn't look great on your CV. I'm a personal massive believer in the McDonald's alumni, because I worked at McDonald's all the way through uni, and I think it's one of those jobs where you don't actually know until you've done it how much skill is required to do an easy job. So I always kind of, that's a good tip. You know, if you think it looks a bit bare because you're leaving things out that you don't think are applicable, and you just don't know exactly what people are looking for. So so get it in there. And very much, you know, like everyone said, personality. Part of our application process before you get to meet anyone is submitting a video of yourself. And a lot of people basically just read out their CV on the video and tell you, you know, all the things that are on the CV, and we don't want to know that because we read the CV. We want that video to be about you, and it's kind of your kind of chance to sell yourself on, like Mike said, anything that you're passionate about, anything that makes you you. So yeah, they're my top tips.
Brilliant. Can I just jump in there as well? You know, here in the careers service, where we've got people who can help you build that CV and make sure that you're reflecting on your skills and experience, exactly what the guys have said. Just because you don't think it's relevant, there will be things in there that you've done that are relevant. There'll be group work that you've done at university. You'll have dealt with customers in some way. And I'm exactly like Paige. I think you cannot beat someone who's had to get up of a morning knowing that they're going to have to deal with stroppy people who blame you for their bad mood, and the resilience that that can bring you. It might not sound like, you know, it might not on paper, the way you write it might not sound like it's that good an experience, but if you can pull out the skills that you've and the attributes that you've demonstrated and developed through doing that kind of experience, it's about how you sell it. So it will be there. I've got no doubt that that experience that these guys are looking for will be there. But it's just about marketing yourself really, and making sure that you put it across in the best way. And there's people in the careers service who can really help you with that.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, I'm probably going to have to jump out now because I'm
no
already
problem.
late, but,
thank you so much.
Thank you very much for all your advice, and yeah, it was lovely to meet you all. Thank you.
Your class.
Thank you.
Bye. Do we have any further questions, Natalie and Evie?
I was just going to jump in and say thank you so much for all your time and your knowledge. It's been extremely useful. I feel like I've learned more than the work I've been trying to do today. And I was going to say, actually, I know my question was sort of centered around being a grad in one of these schemes or jobs, and being very aware that, you know, when you go to university, there's experiences you know you're going to have and learn from, and then some of the best of like lessons you end up learning are just things you couldn't have preempted. And I'm doing my DIS right now, and I really have learned, you know, no pain, no gain. Although, I mean, saying that, I did just see Mike's message, and I don't think that comment looks as strong now. But I think I really had that question actually, that do you, from your own personal experiences, or when you have employed grads, is there a sort of like lesson you feel or a really valuable experience that as a grad you gain, or, you know, sort of reflection? Because I've two older sisters and they're in work, and I get calls from them sometimes. They go, oh my gosh, I did this, I didn't even, you know, preempt this was going to happen. I think as a grad, I'm just very aware I'll give it my 100, but there's probably mistakes and things that I'm going to be made along the way naturally. But I didn't know if any of you from experience knew was sort of probably one of the most valuable lessons that to be had from coming out of working for a company like ones you do work for.
I'd just say be comfortable with making mistakes. I make mistakes 100 times a day, whether it's misjudging one of my co-workers' mood, whether it's not sorting out a customer right, not asking the right questions. But it's the great thing is you become a product of your whole experience, and the more experiences you open yourself up to, the more kind of references that kind of happen automatically in the back of your head. You don't even think about it, but they inform and they guide and they shape the responses to situations in the future. So don't let mistakes upset you. Take them for what they are, learn from them, move on, but secretly celebrate the successes. Just get excited about the cool stuff that you do, because it is an amazing life and an amazing opportunity. And sometimes I think people forget to stop and enjoy the view. Stop and enjoy the view sometimes. It's cool.
Yeah, definitely. And if I could just add to that, I can't think of sort of one scenario in particular that I can relate to in that way, but in a general kind of approach sort of way, like my first year of uni, I kind of did a complete 180, because my first year I was just caught up in everything that was going on, and I was a proper stereotype. I didn't used to go to my lessons. I scraped by and did everything, and I sort of realized halfway through that I paid a lot of money for it. I'm also a little bit older. I'd done a couple of bits in between going to uni, and I was like, what am I doing? I'm literally wasting my own time and money here. Did a complete 180, and then it was about the communication, because in my first year I didn't know anyone, any of my tutors. I had never logged into the learning resources. I just wasn't using the things that were around me that were there to help. And then it went the complete opposite way around, where by the end of my time at uni, I was in conversations with my lecturers at 2 a.m. just because we were both really interested in what I was doing for my dis, and they were really happy to give me that time, because I was so looking for that. And I think I've brought that approach into my working life as well. Obviously I'm very lucky because we have a very open communication kind of ethos here, but I have a very close relationship with my boss, and at one point there was only 4 of us sat in a room, so I think it was easy for me to kind of get going with that in the beginning, and things that I would naturally want to have as an internal struggle, and that would eventually kind of bring me down because of that, I can now just sort of say, whoa, hold on a second, I've got people, and I've got tools that will all help me if I just kind of communicate about whatever it is that's going on. And then I think I can say the same thing, but the other way around. So I also came out of uni with a pretty good idea of the things that I was really good at. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having that self-value of being actually, I'm awesome at that, and I have the confidence to walk in and do this, this, and this. And that's basically what I said in my interview to Poptop. And it was a pretty generic question, where do you see yourself in 3 years? And I was like, well, I'm going to be working here, I'm going to be managing a team, and we're going to be doing this, this, and this. And that, that was possibly a bit cocky, but I was being totally authentic. That's what I thought, and essentially that's what I've then gone on to do. So I wasn't wrong, and there's nothing wrong with having the self-value, and those are both kind of traits that I really developed in uni and then have carried through to later life. So yeah.
And Natalie, go on.
I wouldn't have said it was cocky. I'd quite like that. It's called manifestation. I'd like it. I also couldn't think of any one particular area, but it was just really an expansion of Mike's, and that I think you just need to be comfortable with making mistakes, because by God, you're always going to make them, and I'm still making them, and I never think I'm, at the peak of my career or anything like that. But it's happening, and it'll always happen. So the old adage of fail fast, learn to when you are doing it, learn to do it quickly. And I absolutely live by the affirmation, which is there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And I think as long as you are taking the learning out of every fail, it's nothing more than learning. And honestly, I think it's a bit of brain training as to how you appreciate it. It comes down to a much deeper level and what type of person you are. But that's my view. And my only other advice would be, you know, when you're choosing your, because you are choosing, when you're choosing your employer and your company who you're working for, like that's where it really comes into thinking, like, is this where I'm going to be happy? You know, do you get the vibe from the person who's interviewing you? Are you getting the right vibe on the website? You know, the people that you pass as you walk through the office to go to the interview room, you know, are they smiling and welcoming? Because they're the people who will be around you and have eyes on you, and will be the person who's either being the persecutor, saying you've done it wrong and making you feel much worse about your failure, or there'll be ones who are saying, don't worry, it's fine, we'll sort it, we'll learn from it. Yeah, don't keep doing the same thing, because then it's a performance issue. There comes a caveat, but ultimately, you know, surround yourself with the right people. And just kind of my team here, they're always going, oh no, I'm really sorry, you know, I've sent the wrong email, or I've accidentally switched something and the website's down, or whatever it may be. And at some point, you know, I'm just like, it's fine. It feels icky sometimes, but they're quite often icky because they're growing pains. And I think you just acknowledge growing pains is in your growth expands from experience. So that's it from me.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording because we've gone well over. So thank you so much to our panelists, and thank you so much to you guys getting involved with your questions and with your chats. It's been great to just sit and watch and listen to everything and hear the feedback between all of you. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to stop the recording.